Hello and welcome to this short talk about growth mindset, challenge and extension. I'm Kay Dane, I'm Director of Teaching and Learning here at Redham House. This is a abridged version of the presentation we gave to parents, but it aims to explain some of our key policies. Firstly, it's based upon growth mindset, a theory that was made by the psychologist Carol Dweck, where she said that people of a fixed mindset tend to believe that their ability, their IQ, is fixed, and it asks people who maybe they don't feel that they're very clever, why bother putting the effort? Why bother making things get better? And she calls this learnt helplessness. The alternative is growth mindset, which believes that things, your ability, your outcome can improve by effort, reflection, and hard work. And she says this results in something called grit, so the ability to learn from failure and be able to take that learning and apply to new situations. How can we spot the fixed mindset? Well, on the screen here are some of the things that we see or we suspect we see at school. I don't know whether you hear about any of those at home as well. And this is so important now because it's an increasingly competitive marketplace out there. Whether you want to go to the top university, get onto an apprenticeship scheme, get the best place on an accountancy course, there are more and more people who are trying to apply at the same time. And it's also the case at Redham House because we have said we are increasingly academically focused with lots of focus on both attainment and effort. The NSPCC recently published some alarming statistics that showed that across the whole population of children, academic stress was the biggest worry for 50% of children. That was much more than peer pressure to be trendy or finding a boyfriend or girlfriend. And the Office of National Statistics show us that 1 in 10 school-aged children suffer from mental health issues related to stress. So we really need to be able to make our children more resilient. They need grit, not learned helplessness. So our challenge really is to work together in order to make sure your pupils, our pupils, your sons and daughters, are equipped to reflect on their past mistakes, learn and move on, and taste success, whatever that is for them individually, and let that motivate them to try harder. So what are we doing in order to help our pupils to achieve this growth mindset? Now at this point I showed a 6-minute video. You'll find it at the link that's written there about yet and not yet cultures delivered by the American psychology Carol Dweck. In it, she shows the impact of growth mindset on academic success in the long term. The tips that come out of those that particular video, the first one is about praising process. So we will be praising process. That means that we're going to be praising effort, improvement, strategies, and perseverance. The other tip that came from the video is that the need for constant validation, the need to constantly know where you came in the class, who did better than you, who did worse than you, it all encourages a fixed mindset. So those who use this as their currency to make themselves feel better or to move forward, they might find this a little bit tricky. We're going to be a lot less reliant on that. We're also going to be looking at the way we teach and changing some of our teaching methods. The first is via marginal gains. What we find is when you change a little, you can achieve a lot. And we've borrowed from the world of sport there to make the analogy. You know that in year 4 upwards, we're having cycle tests on a weekly basis. And those are about application as well as subject knowledge. Exam technique, things like timing across the paper are all important. And each time we do a cycle test, we reflect upon what have we learnt on that particular thing, what have we changed and made better. We're also encouraging people to avoid closed loops, so doing the same thing over and over again and getting a very similar result. And we're saying to pupils that you have an active role in examining your mistakes or examining how things have gone well and making sure you replicate the good and you're able to change the poor. We want to change them from passive to active learners. I'm afraid to say that we hear a tremendous amount of comments along the line of, my mum didn't pack my homework, mum didn't give me my swimming kit, you didn't remind me that I needed to do that. We need our pupils to take responsibility for their learning, obviously at different levels according to their age range and their maturity, but it is a necessary skill in life. And similarly, we're drawing upon other people's success where they've tried and tried again in order to achieve success. James Dyson will say that he had 5,126 failures before he did his he produced his market-leading vacuum cleaner. Hopefully you'll have already seen flipped learning taking place. Well, why are we doing it? Firstly, we know that it increases confidence, particularly in our lower attainment pupils. They come into the lesson with a base level of knowledge, and therefore they are much more active in our lessons. For those who are higher attainer, they can achieve the base level and then they're able to move on to something more advanced within the lesson. And we're hoping to have a bank of videos that people can use for revision, maybe for people who find that learning by reading is their least effective way of learning. We've introduced CHEX across our school now. Every school has a CHEX coordinator. In the ELS, it's Mrs. Lancaster. In junior, Mrs. Morris, and in senior, Mrs. Holgroves-Jones. And they work with me in order to make sure that all of our pupils are challenged and extended. And that's about their current attainment and indeed their effort level too. The pupils have been briefed about this already, so please ask them if you've got any questions. CHEX stands for challenge and extension. It's based upon the work of Bloom's taxonomy, which examines the way in which questions are asked. And Bloom's suggested that there are several different levels to questioning. From remembering, which is knowledge-based, I might ask, how would you explain, or can you give me three? Through understanding, applying, analysis, evaluating, and finally to creating, where I might ask people to present or defend their opinion. Something like, how would you prove that? What's your view of? You will see CHEX happening. There's a gradual introduction occurring now. Hopefully you've seen it already in the green stickers in your children's work, in classroom activities, and in their flipped learning prep. So thank you for your time and your support on this short video. If you have got more questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Just contact your school's administrator and they'll put me in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.